Good afternoon, everybody. This is a roaming prepper. I hope everyone here is having a good afternoon and a good weekend. Today's Saturday SITREP is going to be very specifically about one topic that I think is very interesting because it could very quickly go sideways, and that is the Iranian military slash cargo vessel that is headed to Venezuela and then to Cuba, which they suspect will be dropping off some weaponry that we probably don't want Venezuela to have. It would not only be in America's interest, but a lot of our other neighbors, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, uh, and including Panama, Nicaragua, these countries. This could be a very disruptive situation, and it could be a hotspot, and it could be something that is a big challenge to the current administration if they don't address it the right way. We could look weak or confused in the eyes of the global community. On the flip side, we react to it the wrong way, and we could start essentially cause conflict, and I mean a shooting conflict. So that situation arose here, came on my radar not very long ago, and we're going to go discuss that now. So let's share that screen, and bear with me just a second here, and ta-da, and there we go. So actually, I'm going to do it that way. There you go. So CNN, we'll start with CNN. U.S. tracking Iranian ships that may be headed into the Atlantic and for Venezuela. Now, this was recorded on Thursday. This article, rather, was written on Thursday, the 3rd of June, and I'm recording this on the 12th, so it's been a full week they've been tracking this thing. Now, if you look at that picture, and I'll try to blow it up a little bit, this vessel used to be what was called an oil, it was called an oil tanker, called the oil tanker, I believe it was Mashra, may not have that name right. But in any case, it was converted to basically serve the same function as ships like our amphibious carriers, like the Taipei, where it serves a role of being both a helicopter platform, a refueling vessel, and a depot or kind of a floating home base for Iranian activity. Now, we've got that. The Brits have it, the Chinese, the Russians, everyone has some spin on it. This is one of the few that Iran has, but it is a seaworthy vessel. It was an oil tanker, and it's now been converted to military ops as a floating headquarters, if you will. Now, if you take a careful look at that photo, it says the Iranian ship Makran is seen in this Maxar Technology satellite image from early May. It was around the Persian Gulf at the time. They've taken more recent photos, and they see the same thing, that loadout of small attack craft. They don't know if those attack craft are meant for Venezuela or if it's just the normal complement that goes wherever that ship goes. It has these little boats with it. But you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these attack craft there. Now, if those are being left with Venezuela, that's interesting. There's also reports that the advertisements that this cargo ship, and they're actually now 2 headed to Venezuela and then to Cuba, and I don't know what order they're going in, will be carrying ballistic rockets. I talked about that last week. Now, these ballistic rockets, again, not nuclear capable, but they are anywhere from 600 to 1,500 kilometers. Translating that, they can hit Trinidad, Tobago, St. Lucia. They can definitely hit the Panama Canal. Those attack boats have the range to go from Venezuela, which is on the northern part of South America, and it's a very short hop for them to go and be disruptive in the canal. And that's concerning because now you have 2 unfriendly countries disrupting the 2 major canals of the world, the Suez and the Panama Canal. Now, we all remembered, for whatever reason, Somebody decided to parallel park a freighter in the Suez Canal. I suspect that might have been deliberate. Nobody wants to talk about it. It could have been an egregious mistake. But in any case, you saw what it did to the pricing and the logistics of the world. And that was not a combative action. That was a stupidity or maybe a deliberate train wrecking of a boat. And it was corrected within a week. And it still had a ripple effect. It backed up commerce, it backed up deliveries and goods and fuels, etc. For weeks and months. We're still feeling the effect now, if you hadn't noticed, at the gas pump. So that kind of disruption is dangerous. Now, we're going to scroll down on this article as well. Officials said the U.S. has been monitoring the ships for approximately 2 weeks. So this was written a week ago. They've been monitoring it for 2 weeks before that, which would put it about the timeline of when this photo was taken. The vessels have been off the east coast of Africa for the past several days. They were initially expected to round the Cape of Good Hope around June 9th to 11th. So this weekend, which would be the weekend of the 11th, 12th, 13th, Friday through Sunday, that vessel is now coming around Africa and headed to our way. Now let's look here. It is the Makran. Okay, I said it right. The Iranian ship Makran is seen in this Maxar technology image docked in the Iranian port. And again, it has that complement of little boats. So the DoD will not comment on intelligence matters. We would note that the delivery of such weapons would be a provocative act. Now, this is exactly what the Russians did during the Cuban Missile Crisis. They put stuff we didn't want in our hemisphere, really next door to us, just to screw with us. Now, one of their ships did catch fire recently and sunk. Allegedly, that was a engineering error, like a boiler blew up or something. I don't know. It could have been the Israelis. It could have been the Brits, the French. Who knows? But the Makran says seen in late April in satellite images from Maxar Technologies in the port of Bandar Abbas. So anyway, I just had a delivery and the dogs are pissed. In any case, U.S. Navy and Coast Guard ships have been harassed by these very same gunboats. And so this is going to present a problem if those boats now disrupt the Panama Canal. Now, I looked a little further and I went to what's called news.usni.org, which is usnavalintelligence.org. It's a public venue presentation. The Iranian warship thought to be headed to Venezuela left port with 7 high-speed missile boats. And that got my attention. I wanted to know exactly what kind of missile boats they were. Now, if you see in the article, it has the 7 attack craft, and they just call it FAC here. So I had to do some more digging. But it's interesting that you have civilian companies providing the satellite imagery for the DoD. So there's a lot of partnership there. If they could prevent hacks, that would be great. The 7 missile craft aboard the Makran are each approximately 57 feet long and match the PACAP family of medium-sized attack craft. These are capable of carrying 2 anti-ship missiles and 2 12.75-inch torpedoes. Now, just for the record, any of those, the 12.75 is the diameter. It's not a 13-inch torpedo. It's the diameter of the torpedo. These torpedoes and the rockets are more than capable of sinking commercial ships and very much damaging smaller military vessels like destroyers and patrol craft. So here they discuss on usni.org, they discuss a little more of the role of the Makran, and they say the U.S. Navy's Expeditionary Sea Base serves a similar purpose. It's designed to be a mobile base for small boats, aircraft, troops, and provide a floating hospital, a refueling center. It's kind of like a jack-of-all-trades vessel. If they are supporting or engaged in an activity, much like we've done, we'll park it safely offshore where it's far enough away from danger, and then ships and helicopters can go back and forth. So there's been concern that Venezuela is trying to get ballistic missile technology from Iran, and some areas of the deck are covered in a different way than has been seen in the past. So they're wondering if that might be the missiles. Now, of course, you can't see in the ship as well, so it may be in there. So I looked a little deeper, and the pay cap 2, and this is from Wikipedia. This is probably the cleanest picture I could get, but I confirmed this on a few other websites. The ships have an estimated displacement of 14 tons. They're not an overly large vessel, but they can carry, sorry, I got a bug in here, 2 anti-ship missiles and 2 torpedoes, all of which are capable of severely damaging or sinking civilian craft. And when I say civilian craft, again, freighters, tankers, destroyers, larger vessels than itself. It also has machine guns as well as automatic cannons. It is fast, it is mobile, and these are exactly the same ships that have been harassing the Navy destroyers and the Coast Guard cutters in the Middle East. So they basically probably want to give us a taste of our own medicine. So how can this play out? So let's discuss that for a bit. So there are a few ways this can play out. This could be Iran testing how far they can get away with. Because we're trying to re-enter the nuclear agreement, they could be trying to put a little political pressure on the President Biden. You notice that this particular arrival of this ship, as I mentioned last week, is coming up right at the same time as Joe Biden's meeting with Russia and with the UK. He's in the Europe / Central Asia kind of area. He's kind of floating around Russia and NATO and Europe, and then I think he's supposed to go to Turkey, maybe the edge of the Middle East. In any case, the president's making his rounds, and this is coming up. So that basically leaves Vice President Harris in charge if the president is indisposed or, unable to respond. Joe Biden has much more experience internationally on geopolitics than Vice President Harris. So hopefully she has surrounded herself by some good advisors who can give her guidance. Not being political, but there isn't an experience there, so that's a concern. These craft can do damage. So pay attention to this. That can be very disruptive if they're allowed to offload. Now, I did do some research and found out that stopping this ship randomly actually may violate maritime law. So it's not like the U.S. Navy can just say, okay, pull over and show me your driver's license. They will have to have some very convincing reasons to do it, or they basically have to stand there and ignore it. Now, they could do the Cuban Missile Crisis technique and basically blockade Venezuela and just basically get in the way of the ship. So it would force the Iranians to do one of two things, either go somewhere else or ram a destroyer. And if they do that, that could be an act of war. It gets really complicated. However, if they're allowed to offload these gunboats, these torpedo boats, and these missiles, if they are indeed on that craft, they can harass shipping. What also concerns me is they're going to Venezuela and then to Cuba. Those same missiles, those ballistic medium-range missiles, can reach Miami. So if Cuba decides to be an a-hole and just, pop some rockets on an American city, they can more than do it. I don't think they're that stupid. Your guess is as good as mine. Hopefully not. But this is definitely interesting. This is definitely a provocation. This is a push into our territory. The United States, Canada, Mexico have historically benefited from having an ocean on both sides. Iran is trying to close that gap. We have Chinese vessels in the area as well. So a lot of moving parts on the ocean now. So all this drama we had with the Chinese in Taiwan and the Russians in the Ukraine, and other stuff have kind of filtered away, and now it's moved into the ocean. So there's a lot of challenges out there. Hopefully the U.S. Navy's up to it. I'd like to think they are. I know a lot of guys who served, and if a fight's what they want, they'll get it, but they'll give it to them rather. But yeah, this could be disruptive to fuel prices. It can be disruptive to shipping. And keep in mind, Venezuela, Iran, and then around Venezuela, Trinidad, Tobago, Argentina, these are a lot of big oil and gas fields all across the coast, even the Mexican coast. So if we get into some kind of naval problem, it's going to disrupt a lot of fuel. Oil, gas, wind, solar, whatever the hell they have in the coasts there is going to get disrupted. It could be a target, and that's going to be a problem. Continue to make preparations. Assume we will get hit with price increases. Assume there will be some inflation effect. I won't go into those things. We can discuss that in another video. But geopolitically speaking, these kind of moves destabilize the market, and that brings prices up, brings fuel up, and once fuel goes up, everything down the line goes up. Until next time, Godspeed if you're on the road. Be careful, be safe, pay attention to these little hot spots. Don't freak out. Been reached out to some newer preppers and they kind of freak out. Don't do that. Start with the basics. I said it on one of my shorts. Start with 72 hours. Get 72 hours of food and water bottles, a good first aid kit. If you can obtain a pew, get a pew. If you cannot obtain a pew in your state or region, then get creative. Paintball guns, stickball bats, whatever. Find some means to defend you and yours if necessary. Hopefully not. But more importantly, enough for you to hunker down for a weekend. Then do 2 weekends. Now you got 2 weekends, you pretty much got a week, and then go from there. Take it one step at a time. If you're in an apartment, you have limited space. So get creative. There are a lot of good videos on how to kind of manage that kind of space. I hope to do a video on inventory control, including how to store stuff efficiently. I haven't gotten around to that one yet, but it's on my list of things to do. Until next time, I'm signing off. Y'all be safe out there and Godspeed. See you later.